So I'm Clarice.
And I'm Clarice with a K.
And we are both students that are currently in the nurse candidate program. So really the purpose of this video is for us to inform you guys who are interested in nurse candidate program or other nursing students what this program is really about. And because when we were applying for this program, we didn't really have that many resources about the program, and if there were resources, it seems like they're currently really active in duty and they haven't been able to update us on their progress. So we're hoping that we can become this resource for future students. So to start off, I do want to explain what the nurse candidate program is, and I first want to apologize if I'm looking down a lot. We're reading at our notes.
Yeah, from a laptop.
So the nurse candidate program is a financial assistance program for students enrolled in a BSN program, and that upon completion of the degree requirements, students are accepted as a commission as a nurse candidate officer.
For the benefits, which I'm sure everyone is interested in, money-wise, it's $34,000 total incentive while attending school. There's a $10,000 signing bonus plus $1,000 a month for a maximum of 24 months. So to better explain that, since I'm already getting money from the Navy, how it worked was I took my oath June 4, 2019, and then 3 weeks later I received the $5,000 signing bonus, and then I started getting $1,000 per month from them, and $5,000, which is the other half of the signing bonus, I received in December. So that's because I am going to be committing to 4 years of service in the Navy. And once you're active duty, you receive comprehensive health coverage for the entire family. You're eligible for more financial assistance to advance your degree. So for students who are interested in becoming a nurse practitioner or a CRNA or anything else, that's something to look forward to. There's also competitive pay with scheduled graces, and then you get 30 days paid vacation a year with worldwide travel opportunities and unique work environment overseas or in humanitarian ships, fleet, hospitals, and clinics. So for me personally, I already received the list of places that I can work in, and I just haven't figured out which one I'm going to be sent to yet. But I did put San Diego as my first choice, and then I put Bethesda, Maryland as my second choice, with Europe as my third choice. Even though it wasn't on the list, they said that I can write down any place that I want and they'll try to make it work. And for that, you have to actually speak with someone on the phone, which I'm going to do a few days from now. So I'll just update you on that.
So in terms of eligibility requirements, you do have to be a U.S. citizen, and this is in line with what the typical requirements are for any service member, and that you have to be you have to complete your degree by age of 41. And in terms of education, this is really why this program is really competitive, is that you have to be enrolled in a nursing school that's accredited by either the CCNE or the ACEN, and you have to have a cumulative GPA of over 3.0 and above to apply. And once you get accepted into the program, you have to keep your GPA above 3.0. And you have to be a full-time student during your for the remainder of your schooling once you are in the program. So once you get accepted into a program, they're going to ensure that you are a full-time student by asking what your schedule is going to be, and they want like unit verification. So that's one of the things that they're going to be requesting for future applicants. And also, you have to complete your degree within 24 months of entering the program. So in terms of service obligation, there's kind of like two tracks. So if you apply for this program and you get accepted into this program during your 4th year of nursing school, you're going to be required to serve for 4 years versus if you apply and get accepted in this program during your third year of nursing school and you have an additional year of nursing school afterwards, you're going to have to serve for 5 years. So again, if you're going to have the Navy aid in paying for your school for 1 year, you're required to serve for 4 years. And if the Navy's going to be assisting you with payments for schooling for 2 years, you're going to be serving for 5 years.
So now we're going to be talking about the application process, which is a little bit tedious, but it's definitely worth it.
So one of the first things that you have to do is get into contact with a recruiter, and with this you have to really specify that you're interested in entering as an officer, and really try to look for a medical recruiter, because any recruiter might confuse you as just wanting to enlist as a normal civilian, I guess. I don't know how to describe
Not
it.
as, go into the military as an enlistee and not as an officer. So that's why you want to talk to a medical recruiter.
Upon reaching out to a recruiter and they saw that we were interested in the program, we were then sent a profile sheet, which is basically is this any kind of normal profile sheet in where like we give them our name, our birthday, our typical our educational history in terms of what school we're attending, what high school we attended, what our current GPA is, and also kind of our physical in terms of our height and our weight and any medical history, and also our citizenship, like I had mentioned as one of the eligibility requirements. So this is kind of one of the first forms they're going to look at in order to see if you are eligible for the program. And then afterwards they sent us a pre-screening form. So the pre-screening form is a medical form, and this form is what's used to screen you to see if you're medically fit for whatever armed forces you're joining. So this is kind of like their standard form, and he'll complete this form, and what they're going to do with this form is that they're going to send it to MEPS, where they're going to medically screen you. So the important thing is to whatever you put on this screening form once you're at MEPS, and we'll explain more about MEPS later, you put pretty much exactly the same thing. They don't want you adding any more information onto this form once you're actually at MEPS. But other than that, it's a typical medical history form.
And then another thing that you would have to send to your recruiter is you would make scans of your American passport, your social security card, and if you're like us and you moved here to the United States, you would need a proof of your naturalization certificate. The application process itself, you would have to turn in a resume and make sure that it matches the background check in terms of dates and titles of your employment. Also, there's interviews that would need to be done towards the end of the application process. For mine, the first interviewer was done through a video chat. So I was talking to a lieutenant commander. He wasn't in the medical field, but he's been in the Navy for over 11 years and spent 4 more years at the Naval Academy. So I thought he was a great source of knowledge. And then the second interviewer that I got was with a nurse in the Navy Reserves, and that one was pretty strict. She asked me a lot of typical interview questions that you would get, and also some more difficult ones, such as, does being a Navy nurse come before being a Navy officer, and things like that. And you just gotta be creative, I guess, and make sure that you're putting your best foot forward during the interview. For references, you need at least 2 professors and instructors, and then any employment for the past 3 years, and then any others that you want to include. You also could use peer references, and for that I turned in about 11 reference letters, just because I asked a lot of my instructors and my coworkers and my supervisors, just to make sure that I'm making my application as competitive as I can make it.
I also wanted to add that I actually ended up sending just 5, but afterwards they requested little bit more. So it is better to send a little bit more. And in my case, I got probably like, I want to say 2 employers and 3 instructors, but they requested an additional or 2 additional letters of recommendation from another supervisor that I had and also a peer. So is this better for you to get more early on rather than them request it from you later on?
And also, I think another thing that can make you more competitive is if you have volunteered in the past, if you volunteered in the hospital, make sure you ask for reference letters from people that worked with you. So other things that you would need include your official transcripts from any school that you've taken a college class, and then a background check. So for that, you do it online, and it's a lot of work. And for someone who's not from the United States, it's kind of a little overwhelming because you would have to list down the places where you've lived, and then you would need to put people that knew you from where you've lived. So I grew up in the Philippines. I had to put people's contact information that were in the residence where I lived at.
To add on to that too, it's important for you to be as accurate as you can with that background check and to keep references that are going to be able to, for these people to reach out to if they are going to inquire about like a certain place you've lived or if they know you and whatnot. I don't know personally if they, in my case, if they actually end up reaching out to my references, but I knew for a fact that they kept asking me about questions about my background check and whatnot, and they actually I had to set up like a few meetings with like a personal investigator to look into my case, which is something that I guess is more of an experience for myself rather than the other Clarice. So we'll see if anyone has questions in regards to the background check. Yeah. But for sure, just remember what you put on your background check, because the personal investigator had asked me what I put on my background check, and I had done my background check like a long time ago. So if they ask me, oh, why didn't you put this on for this and this, and I'm just gonna be like, I don't really remember what I put there, but just to keep that in mind.
So you also need a personal statement. What you can do, what my recruiter told me was I could take the statement that I wrote for school. So if you've applied for college and had to write a statement for that, you can use it and then just add stuff about the Navy. But I didn't have that, so I had to start from scratch. Essentially just think about why do you want to be a nurse and why do you want to be an officer in the Navy. The Navy core values are honor, courage, and commitment. So if you're able to include those as well, it's going to make your application more competitive, and you need to show that you are applying for this program not just because of money. Just show that this is something that you're passionate about.
So I don't know if it was an experience that you had, but during my interviews, my interviewers really referred back to my personal statement. They'll say, oh, you said this and this and this. What did you mean by that? Or like, I remember reading this about your statement and I was curious as to why you felt like that in this certain time or whatnot. So really, this is something that your interviewer is going to look at before they interview with you, and this might be something that they will use to interview you in a way. So you want to make sure that whatever you put in your personal statement, you really do mean it, and that you do understand like what the job entails. I don't know if you had that experience. Did they refer to anything?
No, I didn't have that experience, so I'm not. I was assuming that they were gonna look at my application packet all together and not look at my essay first and then interview me. So maybe it just depends on which interviewer you get. But yes, just as a tip, at least for my personal statement, what I did was I went into the Navy website and I looked at stuff about what they're looking for, what again, the core values, I tried to make sure that my essay talked about what I am currently doing, what I've done in the past, just to help you out with writing that. And then last two things that you need to turn in are your letter of acceptance to your BSN program, or the letter of good standing from the school, and also the academic degree completion plan.
So that form again is to see if you're going to be a full-time student for the remainder of your nursing program and for the remainder of whatever year that they're going to sponsor you for.
And for statistics, I didn't verify this, but this is just what I heard from other applicants and also from my recruiter. My recruiter told me that it's a 50% acceptance rate, and from a Facebook group that I'm part of, which is specifically about the NCP, they said that the board will only look at the first 160 applicants and choose 65. So I don't know if that's really the case, but my recruiter seemed to tell me that it's true.
And don't let that number discourage you, because I want to say that my application was turned in a little bit late just because of some other things that were going on with my application, which I can go into later. But I'm pretty sure I turned in my application the last week it was due, and I ended up being accepted into the program. So I don't know if it's the quota within that year was much smaller, or if my application was really that great. I don't really know what it is, but don't let that number discourage you. Just always fill out your application to the best of your abilities, and always keep in mind what you want to have on your application. So they do want you to have more experience in school and whatnot, like to be an active member of your community. So if you ever have those opportunities, make sure you take them and include them in your resumes and whatnot, and that will make you a stronger applicant. So really do what you can to be a stronger applicant, and also just further enrich your nursing career anyways. So it's just going to benefit you either way. If you want to be in the Navy or if you just want to be a civilian nurse, just continue to educate yourself and to allow yourself to experience those things. What happened with my application is that I ended up putting in a medical condition that I have, and my medical condition is polycystic ovarian syndrome. So that's something I'm not sure if they really counter too much of, and they ended up wanting me to send in a lot of my records to see if this is something that probably will disqualify me from the my service. So I ended up at first sending them a doctor's note about my condition and when I was undiagnosed and everything, but that didn't really seem to suffice. They actually asked for my entire OBGYN medical record. So just to keep that as a heads up, if you ever have any like some pre-existing conditions, so they had access to my ultrasounds, my any previous diagnosis I had, or anything else in regards to my OBGYN record as well. So not just in relation to that specific condition. And afterwards they were able to medically clear me and whatnot. So again, that's why it's really important for you to be transparent with this form, because if it's something that you didn't include in this form, and then once you go to MEPS and you mention it, you're going to be automatically disqualified because you added an additional condition that you hadn't mentioned early on. So make sure what you mention in this form is what you mention in the following form and at MEPS. So you must be wondering what MEPS is, and we keep mentioning it, and it's basically a facility where they're going to medically screen you to see if you're qualified medically to serve. So I ended up going in August, once my application, or actually let me step back. So like I said, I had submitted my information for my condition, and really that was the thing that was preventing me from finishing my application early on, because we have to get that approval from MEPS that I am qualified before they send me over to MEPS to actually screen me completely.
So mine, I got it done in April, because I finished my application packet early. I finished it around June or July. One thing that you need to make sure of for females is you should not be on your period on the day that you schedule it. Another important thing to know is you have a hotel room booked the night before if you want it, but it's up to you if you want to go use it or not. I didn't use it because I stayed with my family, but she did. And how was that experience?
It's a really nice experience. I went in and I had a nice dinner, and then there's like a nice lobby for you to talk to other applicants. But then again, I'm in the hotel I was in, there were primarily people who are applying for as an enlisted member versus an officer. So I think I want to say I probably was one of the only officer applicants in that cohort.
So just to briefly give you an overview, you get there at 5 a.m. Make sure you're not late. You'll be doing paperwork and you sit around until 7, and then they'll do your physical throughout the morning. They'll give you lunch, supposedly. I didn't really get lunch, did you?
Oh, I got lunch.
Okay. And then you should be done around 2 p.m. And then after that, I don't know if this is the case everywhere else, but we both had to go to the headquarters where our recruiter was, and then we had to give him some paperwork and sign some stuff.
So to add on a little bit more about MEPS, they are very particular when it comes to certain things. So for ladies specifically too, and that's the only thing we're probably going to be more so pertaining to because we're female. So one of the first things is to not wear a sports bra. And I've actually seen a girl get disqualified because of this. This is because they want to see like kind of like the movement of your chest while you're doing certain exercises. So if you have a sports bra, that kind of inhibits them from seeing the full range of motion that you have. So that's one of the things they actually sent the girl home for. Like once we had to like kind of strip down into our undergarments, they saw her with the sports bra and they didn't give her an opportunity to change or anything. They just sent her home. So unfortunately, that is something that they do send you home for. Another thing they send you home for is for nail polish. And the purpose for this is because it can harbor fungus. So when they do like kind of like a black light over your nails, if they see that you have nail polish, they immediately disqualify you. And I also saw a girl get disqualified for this because she had a pedicure. And another thing is your underwear. Oh my goodness.
Really important.
It is really important to wear the proper underwear because I almost got sent home for this, but for the opposite reasons. So you're not supposed to be wearing any thongs, and from the picture, if I can find the picture we can put up on this video. From the picture it said that you have to have your buttocks completely covered. So I ended up buying some underwear the day before, and it did cover my butt cheeks and whatnot. And turns out my underwear was a little bit too long because it did look like they were kind of like spandex, and that kind of did might have looked like it was inhibiting some form of range of motion or something. But they almost sent me home because of that. But fortunately, they just allowed me to fold up my long underwear enough to where I wasn't disqualified and had to be sent home. But if that was the case, if I had to be sent home that day, I would have to schedule another day to go to MEPS and go through that entire process over again. So I would definitely recommend you look over the requirements for MEPS before your trek to wherever you're going to do MEPS, and to make sure that it's a productive day and that you don't get sent home early over the smallest things. Because I saw these girls get sent home and it was just very disheartening because they went over there ready to pass their exam and they just got sent home because they had forgotten to like take off some nail polish.
And just another tip for the underwear, just in case we haven't emphasized it enough, it's really important that you wear the right ones. And another way that you can make sure that you're not going to get sent home because of this is to maybe try on the underwear before you actually show up there, and then try to do the exercises that you're going to be expected to do. So in my case, I saw this one girl get sent home because we all had to do the duck walk, which we might demonstrate, I don't know. But for that, her underwear was her underwear, when she was just standing, it looked fine. But when she was actually moving and doing the duck walk, the underwear would go up between her butt cheeks. So that's the reason why she couldn't finish the entire process and had to be sent home. They do have spare underwear, but sometimes they don't have the right size for you. And in that case, you just get sent home.
So another thing, at least at the hotel I was at with their naval, not I don't think it was a naval office. It was just kind of like whatever recruiting little station they had there at the hotel. They had a very nice desk lady, and she offered me some nail polish remover if I needed some nail polish remover, and they also told me like the nearest locations for stores if I needed to buy more underwear. And also, like, I think this is what I did. I actually did it. I actually showed them what underwear I was planning to wear and asked them if this was okay, and they did say that it was okay. But again, like, it's different to actually see the underwear on the person versus just showing them. So just to make sure that you look at all those requirements prior to going. If you're a person that wears contacts and glasses, I would definitely recommend you just wearing your glasses for that day, because it kind of takes the hassle of trying to remove your contacts. At least that was my experience.
Yes, you'll have to be... There's a lot of vision exams that you'll have to go through. I remember the depth perception exam, and that was difficult for me.
So I had just gone through the MEPS process more recently, so I do remember quite a bit of it more. So there is a hearing test, which I probably did not do well in, because all I heard was my heart beating the whole time. But you do go into a chamber, and they're going to put in like these ear sets with you and multiple people in that room, and it's like a soundproof room. And you're going to click a button every time you hear a sound. And there's an eye exam area where they're going to do several vision tests. So one of them is like, that little balloon that you see at the end of the little camera. Yeah. That's going to actually determine your prescription, which is crazy because they never do that in my eye doctor's office. They just do all these weird things. But they were able to get my prescription based off of that. They did depth perception in terms, and also the colorblind assessment too, to see if you can see the colors within the little designs and whatnot. And also, what else do they have you do? They also do like a physical in terms of your blood work and
urine test.
Urine exams.
Don't do drugs.
Yeah, don't do drugs. And another thing too, and I think this is something nice to know ahead of time and I had not known about, is that you have to pee in a cup in front of the nurse. I hadn't known that at the time. And make sure you hydrate before that, because it's going to be difficult for you to provide a sample if you're not able to go. So definitely keep hydrated enough. And also, what else did they do? Also, they actually did a physical exam on me, like where we had to strip down completely. And I had a male physician, but there's always a female nurse accompanying a male physician, and they do the full physical. They're going to examine your breasts and whatnot. They're going to see if there's any lumps or whatnot. So just to let you know ahead of time, that's what they're going to be doing. And they're also going to check for hemorrhoids in your anal area, so just to prepare for that too. And they're going to ask you again, like, any personal history in terms of smoking, alcohol use, any other drug use, and whatnot. Like I said, again, it's just better for you not to use any drugs, and tell them that. And to also just be truthful with anything else that you have mentioned before in your pre-screening medical form. So just stay consistent between those two forms, because it's easy for you to add more because they're kind of scaring you into adding more. But if they scare you into adding more, then you can be disqualified. So that's like the biggest thing that my recruiter had mentioned to me. Well, not really my recruiter, it's our recruiter.
Yeah. Also, for MEPS, you're going to have to perform different exercises to check your balance and strength while you're just wearing your bra and your underwear. So just, it might seem intimidating, but everyone else is doing it, and it's all going to be other girls doing it with you. So just you just get used to it, and you just do it as best as you can, and it's not that bad.
At least the day when I went through it, there were some girls that were struggling with the exercises. They gave the girls, I think, 1 or 2 more tries before they said, that's not gonna cut it. I'm sorry. So I don't know if my day was a little bit like nicer or whatnot, but they do. You do have the opportunity to like do the exercises again. Or never mind, I don't want to promise that. But you might have the opportunity to do the exercises again if you don't get it right that first time.
But if you're nervous about it, I'll link some videos down below that can show you what exercises to prepare for and what the exams entail. Just like the vision exams and the hearing test, just so you have an idea of what it's gonna be like. After you're done with your application, expect to hear back in November. Around that time, I found out November 2nd, I got a phone call from my recruiter telling me that I got in. But to me, it didn't feel real because I didn't get an official email or letter. I didn't get the official letter until April. April. So, but just trust your recruiter that if you got in, you're in.
So in my situation, I got a call on November 13th that I got accepted into the program, and my letter was sent to me today, so it is January 9th, but the letter is dated November 21st. So it really depends on when your recruiter does send that formal letter, but again, our recruiter called us ahead of time letting us know that we were accepted into the program and that we didn't receive this letter physically in the mail. We were emailed it by our recruiter.
And once you're accepted, all you really have to worry about, or not worry about, but focus on, is making sure that you're doing your best in school, studying, and also physically start working out for Officer Development School. So Officer Development School, I'll talk about that later once I actually do it, but for Officer Development School, you go there after you pass your NCLEX, and it's 5 weeks in Newport, Rhode Island. It's like an easier version of boot camp where healthcare professionals, lawyers, and chaplains are sent for training. It's where you're gonna learn about the military. ODS, you have to do a 1.5-mile run, push-ups, and they've replaced sit-ups with planks just this year. So I'm not too sure about that one yet, but yeah, just make sure you're in shape. Just to make it easy for yourself. And then just something that my recruiter told me for the Navy Nurse Candidate program, most new grads end up going to San Diego or Virginia for the first assignment, and that's where they do orientation and your first 3 years at least. And then what to expect once you're working is that you do 7 shifts in 2 weeks. So you do 3 days 1 week, 4 the other week, and you get to experience different specialties from what my recruiter told me.
The bases that you're going to be most likely stationed in is within the U.S., most likely just because you are starting out as a graduate nurse and whatnot. So you're either going to be based in one of the big hospitals within the States, but don't let that don't let that discourage you, because I have read some blogs where they were able to go to Japan during their first year and they experienced it and whatnot. So don't let that discourage you.
And so when it comes to the duty preference sheet, you'll get that around December. At least for me, I got it December 12, 2019, so just about a month ago. And then the options that were given to me included San Diego in California, Bethesda in Maryland, Portsmouth in Virginia, some camps that I don't know. Where is this one? Camp Lejeune.
I'm not sure, but just to note, camps are related to Marine, like they're Marine camps. So just to...
There's also Camp Pendleton, 29 Palms, and Guam and Okinawa were also options. But again, I put Europe on my sheet, even though it wasn't in any of the choices, because the the person that I'm speaking with, they told me to just list any place that I want on my duty preference sheet. I got there at 5 a.m. My parents dropped me off, and as soon as they left, we were told to form a line outside the building, and I noticed my knees were shaking just because I was so nervous, and there's somebody there that's telling us what to do and yelling. So it's, I just felt like, wow, I'm really joining the military now.
So my experience was that so if you decide to go with the hotel experience, I guess, is that you're going to have a like roll call at like 4, not really roll call. They're going to call your hotel room at like 4 in the morning. I'm not sure if that's the exact time they call them, but afterwards they expect you to be down eating dinner at a certain time, and they're going to expect you to line up for the bus, and you're going to ride the bus to MEPS. It's not a very long ride from my hotel to the MEPS center, and my bus driver was playing a bunch of like NF rap and whatnot, and my bus was kind of really hyped up because again like I realized that there are a bunch of enlisted people in my bus, and this is their first time going to boot camp, or I want to say maybe 1 or 2 people, it wasn't their first time, but they were really pumped up for their experience for boot camp and whatnot. So like it was their last days in the US, or not US, in California before they get shipped out. And once we got to MEPS, it was kind of really like my first pre-experience into like a boot camp type of situation, because they were yelling at us to get out of the bus, to get in line, and they were just like calling roll call and very strict. It's kind of like you have to listen for your name and make sure that you say you're there, or else they're gonna get not upset and whatnot. So like definitely it was kind of like a culture shock for me. But for many of these people, they either seemed unfazed or unbothered.